Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon everyone. Selamat sore semuanya. Yang saya hormati narasumber kita Dr. Wesam Al-Madun, the respectable speaker from Gaza University Palestine, Dr. Wesam Al-Madun. Yang saya hormati Bapak Dr. Setiawan bin Lahuri LCMA, the Honorable Dr. Setiawan bin Lahuri LCMA from Gontor Darussalam University. Yang saya hormati segenap pengurus IAEI Jawa Timur, the Honorable the Board of the Indonesian Association of Islamic Economics of East Java Province. Dan tak lupa kami sampaikan selamat datang dan bergabung bersama kami. Di sini telah hadir bersama kita, saya ucapkan selamat datang Bapak Rahmat Hakim dari UMM atau Malang Muhammadiyah University, Bapak Ahmad Mulyadi dari IAIN Madura. Di sini juga hadir dari Unida Gontor, ya, from Darussalam University Gontor, and then Hulu Sumeneb. Selamat datang, selamat bergabung. Juga dari IAIN Sultan Amai Gorontalo juga hadir bersama kita dari Universitas Mercu Buana Jakarta. From Makassar Muhammadiyah University, ya, Makassar Muhammadiyah University juga bersama kita, Ibu Ifayani Hanurat. Kemudian dari YPI Al Mujahid Universitas Muhammadiyah Bandung juga hadir bersama kita. Saya ucapkan selamat datang juga kepada humanitarian activist Mbak Fitratul Akbar from Malang Muhammadiyah University, dan para partisipan dari UIN Khas Jember from Jember State Islamic University, Kiai Haji Ahmad Siddiq. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, dear all lecturers and participants. First of all, let's thank to God Almighty, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us some mercies and blessings so that we can attend this agenda without any trouble, obstacles, and healthy condition. And secondly, salawat and salam may always be given to our Prophet Muhammad SAW, who has guided us from the darkness to the lightness. Ya, jadi saya pertama, marilah kita ucapkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala karena hari ini kita bisa hadir bersama dalam acara Talkshow yang diadakan oleh IAEI Provinsi Jawa Timur, DPW Jawa Timur, menggandeng Rizki, ya, lembaga amil zakat. Kemudian di sini juga telah menghadirkan beberapa narasumber utama kita dari Palestina dan didampingi oleh Bapak Dr. Setiawan dari Universitas Darussalam Gontor. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we come to the talk show, ya, sebelum kita memulai acara talk show kita, marilah kita awali dengan basmalah. Let's begin with basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yeah, okay, ladies and gentlemen, audiences, yeah, before we come to the main agenda, the talk show today, please allow me to introduce myself, yeah, as the master of ceremony. Mohon izin saya memperkenalkan diri sebagai MC di sini. I'm Husnul Khotimah. I work at Jember State Islamic University, Kiai Haji Ahmad Siddiq. And it is an honor for me actually to be part of this event, which is held by IAEI Jawa Timur and also collaborating with Rizki. Jadi sebuah kehormatan bagi saya ini. Saya diminta untuk menjadi MC pada hari ini dengan menghadirkan tamu spesial ini dari University of Gaza, juga dengan Bapak Setiawan. Baik, Well, ladies and gentlemen, the topic of our talk show today is about sustainable socio-economic development in Palestine. Ya, jadi topik talk show kita hari ini adalah tentang keberlanjutan. Seperti yang kita telah ketahui bahwa Palestina, as we know that the history of Palestine, that Palestine has always been in a battle against Israel. The conflict between Israel and Palestine always become a great international. Frequently hear and see the condition of Palestine from television, from media mass, but we don't really know the real fact today. How is the current condition in Palestine today? Whether the socio and economic development run well or in a mess condition. So that's why we invited and pleased Dr. Wesam Al-Madun, the Dean of Engineering Faculty at University of Gaza, Palestine. Jadi topik kita tentang perkembangan sosial dan ekonomi yang ada di Palestina. Nah, seperti yang kita ketahui selama ini bahwa kita hanya tahu berita tentang Palestina dari media massa, dari televisi, mana carut-marutnya keadaan di sana, tetapi kita benar-benar tidak paham ya kondisi yang realnya. Faktanya yang sebenarnya hari ini seperti apa. Kita tahu bahwa Palestina ini memiliki sejarah dengan Indonesia, bahwa pada saat awal kemerdekaan, in the beginning of Indonesia independence in 1945, pada tahun 45, bahwa Mufti Agung Yerusalem dan pemimpin tertinggi Dewan Palestina, Shaikh Muhammad Amin Al-Husaini, turut berjasa dalam meningkatkan pengakuan negara-negara Arab lainnya atas Indonesia, khususnya di sini melalui Liga Arab. Dan mereka juga sepakat untuk pada saat itu menekan Inggris yang tentaranya sudah tiba di Indonesia lebih dulu dari Belanda, untuk tidak mendukung Belanda. Nah, jadi peran Palestina terhadap kemerdekaan Indonesia juga ada pada waktu itu. Ya. Baik, as we know that Palestine was one of the early supporters of Indonesian independence in 1945. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and the Supreme Leader of the Palestinian Council, Sheikh Muhammad Amin Al-Husaini, has contributed to increasing the recognition of other Arab countries over Indonesia. Jadi singkatnya, langsung saja saya akan bacakan di sini kurikulum vitae dari Bapak Dr. Wesam Al-Madun, ya, yang beliau merupakan dekan di Fakultas Teknik di Universitas Gaza, Palestina. Di sini, baik, langsung saya bacakan. Beliau pernah meraih gelar Doktor Teknik Lingkungan di Universitas Sains Malaysia. Jadi beliau juga bisa berbahasa Melayu di sini, tidak hanya berbahasa Arab. Kemudian beliau pernah meraih gelar beasiswa postdoktora di Malaysia di Institut Teknologi Internasional Malaysia, Jepang. Kemudian beliau juga merupakan profesor penelitian di Universitas Seoul, Korea, dan juga dosen tamu di Universitas of Windsor, ya, Universitas Windsor. Kemudian beliau juga memiliki 15 tahun pengalaman bekerja sebagai dalam pengajaran, pelatihan, riset maupun konsultan selama ini di wilayah Brunei, Indonesia, Korea Selatan, Amerika maupun di Kanada, dan juga merupakan profesor peneliti di Universitas Seoul di Korea. Beberapa proyek internasional membangun kota sehat ya di Indonesia. Untuk publikasi beliau telah memiliki kurang lebih dari 50 paper yang duta untuk lingkungan, ya, yang di sini dalam anggotanya lebih dari 10.500 ya, dari 120 negara, dan beliau hari ini menjabat sebagai dekan di Universitas Teknik di Universitas Gaza di Palestina. Nah, Oke, itu sementara untuk kurikulum vitae dari Bapak Dr. Besam. Sedangkan narasumber kita yang kedua, yang nanti juga akan memandu acara selanjutnya untuk talkshow ini, hadir bersama kita Al-Ustadz Dr. Setiawan bin Lahuri LCMA. Di sini beliau merupakan kelahiran Ponorogo. Benar ya Bapak? Dari Ponorogo, beliau bertempat tinggal juga di Ponorogo di Jalan Raya Siman, dan alamat kantornya beliau ada di Universitas Darussalam Gontor, mohon maaf, Unida Gontor, dan beliau memiliki 5 orang putra. Beliau juga memiliki riwayat pendidikan di sini mulai SD hingga SMA di Ponorogo, kemudian nah ini luar biasa ini, S1-nya sudah di Kairo, Mesir, di Al-Azhar, kemudian S2 juga menempuh Magister Ilmu Hukum Institut Riset dan Studi Arab di Kairo, Mesir. Kemudian beliau juga meraih gelar doktoral di sini di Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. Kemudian pengalaman organisasi beliau ya, for organization experience, di sini ada organisasi pelajar pondok modern atau UPPM Darussalam Gontor Ponorogo. Kemudian beliau juga pernah menjadi ketua di Ikatan Pelajar Pondok Modern Gontor yang ada di Kairo, Mesir. Kemudian Asosiasi Dosen Ekonomi Islam. Nah, jadi beliau ini memang betul-betul bergelut di ekonomi Islam, dan beliau juga menjadi pengurus ketua DPD IAEI Ponorogo, kemudian juga di Jawa Timur beliau sebagai ketua 3 DPW IAEI Jawa Timur periode tahun 2017 hingga 2021, dan beliau juga ketua 5 di DPW IAEI Jawa Timur 2021 hingga 2025. That is the curriculum vitae from Dr. Setiawan. Jadi itu adalah kurikulum vitae dari Bapak Dr. Wesam dan Bapak Dr. Setiawan. Untuk selanjutnya kami persilahkan kepada Bapak Dr. Setiawan untuk selanjutnya memandu acara talk show ini. Time is yours, sir.
Terima kasih Bu Husnul. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin alladzi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haq liyudhhirahu 'ala ad-dini kullihi walau karihal kafirun. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma shalli 'ala sayyidina Muhammad wa 'ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Amma ba'd. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On behalf of the Indonesian Association of Islamic Economists for East Java region, we would like to welcome to our distinguished guest, Professor Dr. Wissam Al-Madhun from Faculty of Engineering, University of Gaza, Palestine. Welcome, Dr. Wissam, to our discussion for this afternoon. Dr. Wissam, when we are talking about Palestine, we always talk about a conflict, talk about gunfire, talk about this situation. Now, in this afternoon, we would like to listen, to discuss with you what is the real situation, the real fact according to our sustainable socio-economic development in Palestine of all. Please tell us how is the condition of economic, the condition of maybe the level of poverty in Palestine. You can talk about distribution, among Palestinian people, and you can talk about, of course, it is your field of your research environment in Palestine. So we expecting from you to tell us about what you have been done in Palestine. According to our topic today is sustainable socio-economic development in Palestine. Please welcome Dr. Wissam as time and US.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum and good afternoon and salam Mawlid Rasul.
Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala
alayhi salatu wassalam. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for attending the event, and also I would like to thank the with you to share some of the, maybe updates and maybe sharing some knowledge on the scenario in Palestine. So let me share with you, I'll be presenting several slides, then maybe we can have discussion and maybe also Q&A from the audience. But let me present some of the statistics and numbers about the situation in Palestine. So, as you know, the Palestinian struggle started way back, and that is in 1948 when the Israeli start occupying Palestine in 1948. And as you can see here, how the Palestinian land is shrinking, the shrinkage of the Palestinian land because of the Israeli occupation. And if you can see here, how the decrease in the area of the Palestinian land, and this is the growing of the Israeli occupation, as you can notice here, that the Israeli, I'm sorry. So you can see that the Israeli settlements expand in the Palestinian land, and we only left now, I think, with less than even 20% of the original land of Palestine. So this is the main cause of the Palestinian struggle over the time. And you can see here, this is some interesting numbers on the Palestinian population worldwide, right, by place of residence. And so in West Bank, we have 2.9 million, which is 23% of the Palestinian population. We have almost more than that in the occupied Palestine, in the what is called now as Israel. And we have more than 5 million in Arab countries. And we have in other countries, we have more than 500,000. So we have the total population of Palestinian in the world, it's 12 million. And this is in terms of the population. And most of the, let's say, the suffering from the Israeli occupation, it is in West Bank and Gaza, where people are being attacked and suffering under the Israeli siege for the long period. So in terms also, if you want to categorize the people based on whether they are refugees and non-refugees, so we are talking about more than 66% of the population are refugees, means they've been displaced from their homes, from their places, and they become refugees. And some of those refugees are in Gaza and West Bank, and the others, they are in Arab countries and in the world. And for example, I am originally from Ashkelon, but my family were chased out from their home in Ashkelon, and we are now living in Gaza. So this means millions of people, they are being settled somewhere else and they become refugees, means they lost their homes, their properties, and they need to rebuild back their life again. So if you can see here in the map, one of the aspects which is a challenge for the population and for the economy is the segregation, even in terms of the road system, right? Which means this is especially in the West Bank for the Palestinian. They can't use the same roads with the Israeli. So the Israeli create a segregated system in terms of road, and that in terms of the road system, and that is because of the security reasons. So they are not allowing the Palestinian to travel at the same road with the Israeli, and this is, I think, one of the signal of the apartheid system that they are building and they are creating through the segregation, which again create restrictions on education, on the economy, even in the social life of communicating and visiting each other, because some of the people, they are living in different places. So in the news, you might seen some of these places. So Israeli will construct a road, will construct a wall, which will divide the same family in two places, and that will definitely create a lot of economical and socio-economic issues. So this is the growth of the Israeli settlement in the West Bank, and this is from 1976 up to 2018, and you can see that the number is almost we are talking about 500,000 Israeli who are settled in the Palestinian land. Means they occupy the land, they steal the land, and they construct settlement, and they are staying at these lands. So this is in a comparison, and this is a deadly year for Gaza and West Bank, Israeli and Palestinian deaths. This is in terms of numbers, right? So you can see here, you see the number of injuries for Palestinian and the number of injuries for the Israeli. So there is even no comparison here. We are talking about almost 30,000, and this is only in 1 year, right? And this is, you see in 2017, we're talking about almost 9,000, and it is only a few hundreds of Israelis. So this is even in terms of number, when you compare the suffering, the fatalities, it is a huge destruction, huge fatalities at the Palestinian side, which means that the Israeli are using excessive force against the Palestinian. So these numbers are very, very clear and showing the the real numbers of the Palestinian suffering. So this is the demolition and displacement trends analysis in the West Bank. So we are talking about more than 5,000 units being demolished. We are talking about more than 900 of these structures were funded by donors. That means it is by international donors, and the Israeli destroy them. And we are talking about more than 8,000 people displaced, and those who affected by these actions, we are talking about more than 50,000 people. And these are the demolition and displacement by year, and you can see the number of the demolition. It is huge. It is causing a lot of suffering to the Palestinian. And the demolished structures by 17% in East Jerusalem, right? And this is at the other places. This is a sea area which is under the Israeli control in terms of security, and that's why they are, they easily can access the places and demolish, these structures. So here there's some interesting numbers in terms of displacement of people by age and sex. So we are talking about more than 2,700 boys, 1,900 girls in terms of men and women, We are talking about more than 2,400 men and more than 1,800 women that been displaced. And normally we are talking about families that, again, when their house is being destroyed, they have to find shelter. They have to start their life from scratch again. So here you can see these numbers in terms of the suffering of Palestinian. So in Ramallah district, the Israeli security forces arrested at least 20 Palestinian, including one minor, and made at least 27 raids on town and villages, right? And they raided 36 homes. So in Bethlehem district, the Israeli security arrested at least 13 Palestinian. So you can see how is, this is a kind of a daily routine for the Israeli to raid houses and arrest people, destroy houses, creating a checkpoints, causing suffering for the Palestinians in the movements. And that is when we talk about the socio-economy, that implication, the social life of Palestinian. In terms of the Gaza Strip, we are talking about 2 million population and 71% of the population under the age of 30. And this is means a lot. That means the Palestinian community in Gaza, they are young people. They have a lot of ambition. They need a lot of resources for education, to develop their life, to develop their capacities. And that is, in terms of the economy, that is a big, great opportunity, because when you have young people, means their productivity is very high. But due to the Israeli occupation, we have a very high unemployment rate. We are talking about more than 50%. This is might be some kind of data which need to be, if we are talking about the current scenario, it's more than that. This is, as you can see, the unemployment rate among young people, it's more than 65%. 96% of the water are undrinkable, means it is unhealthy to drink water because it is polluted, it is salinated. And that is because of the shortage in water, because Gaza relying on groundwater, and that is affected by the overconsumption. There is no, the Israeli control most of the resources. We don't have access to water resources from other places. And if you have to get it from the Israeli side, you have to pay for it. And that is beyond the capability of the Palestinian government. So we have to buy our own water, which they steal, and that is again causing a lot of suffering to the people and for the industry, because if you don't have water and a healthy water, that will put limitation on the industry, that will put limitation some of these items or material from outsource, from the external sources. So 4 numbers of hours of electricity, and I think you've been witnessing that. In Gaza, we are talking about sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 8 hours at the best scenario when you get 8 hours electricity. And that is because the Israeli destroyed and bombed the power plants, the electrical power plant in Gaza in 2006. And the capacity of the power plant is very limited, so it can't meet the needs of the Palestinian. That's why the number of hours, which again, this is a limitation for the people and limitation for the industry. Because if you don't have energy, how you want to run your even a small businesses or even like small factories, that will put limitation on the production process. And there are the few are eligible to apply to exit strip under Israeli limited criteria. So even if you want to leave Gaza, you need to get a permission from the Israeli, and that is very restricted. And also it is risky because you might apply for permission. They allow you, once you reach the checkpoint, they will arrest you. So it is very risky. And we are talking about 51% drop in the exit of Palestinian. That is because of the Israeli limitation. We are talking about 70% of people receiving humanitarian aid. And that means that the Palestinian population is in a great need when you talk about 70% of them rely on the humanitarian aid for living. And the Israeli controlled Gaza, commercial crossing, restricting entry of goods, essentials, and you need to apply for special permissions to bring in goods from outside Gaza, and the prices and the taxes is very high. That caused the prices of the goods and the items in Gaza to be high, and that is beyond the capability of the people again. So we are talking about 5,230 people per square kilometer in terms of density, which is a high densely population, where we talk about 2 million people staying in 365 kilometer, and 31% of the residents in Gaza with family in East Jerusalem, Israel, or West Bank. And it means these people who been originally from other places, and they displaced, they've been chased out, and they still have some other families in other parts like East Jerusalem and West Bank. And we are talking about 329 numbers of closure of Rafah crossing. That was in 2017. Now it's a bit better. It's opening and more frequent. And so in terms of movements between Gaza and Egypt, it's more flexible right now, but still restrictions on the movement through the Israeli side. So here again, these numbers from the OCHA, which is one of the United Nations agencies. So the humanitarian impact of the blockade in Gaza. So you see here the control and the closure of the Israeli from all sides, even from the sea. They are monitoring and they are controlling the sea, which put limitation on the numbers of, the number of, for example, limitation on fishing, limitation on bringing goods inside Gaza. And that is also limiting the movement of people. And as you can see here, the number of imports into Gaza via the Israeli. So this is the number of truckloads per year. And you see here the fluctuation. If you talk about 2006, then in 2008, there was a huge drop. And that means the needs of people, the needs of the Palestinian is diminishing, because the Israel is not allowing a lot of types of materials where they have a lot of excuses to prevent them. Like they create the policy of double use or dual use, means any material which can be used for military and civil, so they will just prevent that material from getting access to Gaza. And that is again putting a lot of stress on the economy of Gaza and also on the social impact. When you talk about the very basic needs, even in some cases, some of these material are or being used for kids, and like the toys or any kind of, if you talk about the digital cameras or the small drones for photographing. So these are all. We can see the youth unemployment. So you can see the trends, and that we are talking about more than 67%, right? And so you have all these numbers in terms of the infant mortality, the loss of livelihood, in terms of the also people receiving aids from the UNRWA. I'm talking about more than 1 million people, right? And we are talking also here one interesting number in terms of the fatalities and injuries because of the Great March of Return that was attacked by the Israeli at Gaza border. People demonstrated and they asked for their return to their lands, and they've been attacked, and a lot of fatalities. So this is again the number of people displaced internally and externally. the reconstruction is very slow. When every year we have, if you still remember, we have almost Gaza being attacked more than 4 times. One in 2006, the second 2008, 2014, and the fourth was in 2021. We are talking about thousands of homes being destroyed, thousands of people being killed. So even when we talk about reconstruction, the flow of material is very slow because the Israeli prevented the raw material, and that affects the process of reconstruction. And so it is very slow. Here, the shelter reconstruction status, this is, we have a number here in terms of the totally damaged houses, right? So this is number completed, progressing 462, and building more than 756. And these are the numbers increased after the recent war in 2021 in May. So these number, you know, here we are talking about the minor damage, more than almost 70,000 units, right? And so we had more than 47, which is still pending, right? And that means that we have a lot of houses to be reconstructed, renovated due to the Israeli attack. And that is, again, it is still like very slow because there are very large, you know, there are several limitations, political, economical, and mainly it is because of the Israeli occupation and you know, the alliance who are supporting the Israeli. Right, we talked about the borders, crossings, and as you can see here, this is the crossing with the Israeli, the areas which is controlling the movement. Checkpoint here, and this is the Rafah border, and this is the this is the fence which enclose Gaza, and this is the sea also controlled by the Israeli. So it's like a gate. It's totally controlled by the Israeli, and again that causing a lot of troubles to the Palestinian. So this is the, you know, in terms of the water issue in Gaza, we have an issue. As I mentioned, 97% undrinkable. We have 2 million, the increasing of the population that increase the demand on water, and also the annual rainfall is decreasing. So that is costing the deficit in the water budget. That's why we have an aquifer, coastal aquifer, and when we have overpumping and less rain, that means the seawater will intrude. There is a seawater intrusion, and that causes high salinity for the water in Gaza. So as you can see here in the map, this is the seawater intrusion, right? And this is the percentage of the chloride in water, and this is the nitrate level, which is also high because of many reasons related to the seawater and the wastewater, untreated wastewater, and that is polluting the soil, polluting the water as well. And also in some cases, the Israeli flooding some Palestinian lands with untreated water and sometimes wastewater. So when they flow in the Palestinian land, they you know, toxify the soil and the water as well. So there is, you know, it's a different challenges. So this is again this is prediction for the chloride, and you can see that it's expected all the places here in red to be in more than 2,000 milligram per liter. So again, when you have water issue, you have limitation on water, that is a big challenge for the population and also for the industry. As you can see, what I said just now, this is the groundwater that we are using. This is the Mediterranean Sea. So when you have less water, right, you pump a lot of water to meet the needs of people here. then the seawater will intrude here and will cause desalination to be high. And now most of the people either buy the water or rely on some desalination plants, and the cost of the desalination is very high. You need a lot of funding and need a lot of energy, which is not existing in Gaza, right? So it is also challenging. In terms of the socio-economic condition, in terms of numbers of truckloads, right? So this is the number of truckloads in 2006, 75, in 2007, 82. Then it drops in 28 to 30,000, means there's a huge drop. This is the need of the Palestinians. They only get 18% of the needs. And again, in 2009, 32, in 2010, 41, and this is in 2015, 30,000 trucks per year, which again put limitation on the needs of people and also the needs for the industry. This is the exit of the material, the good from Gaza. This is for export. So in 2005, it was 9,313 truckload. It drops to 5,000 in 26, and then it was 5,727. Then in 28, only 33. In 2010, it is 200, and this is the range for those number of trucks. And that again, it's a huge influence on the industry, on the the economic, and also the socio-economic sector. So this is access to fishing areas, right? They decide normally, like they allow 6 miles for fishing, so people can't go further, they will be arrested. So that is also again affecting, and this is the number of tons of fish by the Palestinian. So you can see here, this is from, if you compare 1999, then you compare to 2015, it is even less than 1/4 of the amount that they can previously fish from the Mediterranean Sea. And this is again, thousands of people rely on fishing, like for their income, for their revenues. And this is one more effect on the economy. This is again the number of crossing of people on the Israeli, and this is, as you can see, the number, if you compare, it is dropped from 26,000 to 400 people, and this is only they allow for people to go for medical treatment. So this is the movement on Rafah border. Again, it has been dropped. Like if you compare, this is the daily average, right? It's increasing. It's a bit better on the movements of people on the Rafah border. So in terms of the food security levels in Gaza Strip, right? We are talking about, in terms of food insecure, in 2009, it was 60%, 2012, 57. Just now, we mentioned one number, that 70% of the people rely on international aid, means they are insecure in terms of number, and that means a lot of people who are insecure. And in terms of population growth, so the population in 2012 was 1.6 million. The people in 2020 are talking about more than 2 million. The density is very high, right? And the population, as I mentioned, from 0 to 17, it's 51% of the population. The majority are young population. And this is again from 15 to 29, we are talking about 30% of the population. So this is an opportunity if we have resources, but it become a challenge because there is a lot of limitation from the Israeli side. So in terms of education, we are talking about, we have more than 120,000 people who join the universities, more than almost 15,000 who join colleges, and and also here can notice that 63,000 join the open universities. So there is a huge tendency for the people here, for the young people, to join the universities to get a degree. That's why most of the unemployed persons, the people who are getting at least one degree, some of them even have PhD, and they're still unemployed because of lack of opportunities. So people are educated, people are chasing opportunities to get educated, but unfortunately, the issue is the unemployment is high. And in terms we are talking about, you see here, these more than 60%, right? And this is again showing that people with degrees, with higher degrees, they are facing a lot of troubles. In terms of economy, the indicators here, we are talking about the GDP in 1994 was 1,327 USD. The GDP per capita in 2011 dropped to 1,165. In 2015, it dropped to, or it was like 1,273. The unemployment rate, it is 29. This is in Palestine. Definitely in Gaza, it's higher. The household are food insecure. This is almost 60% of the people, including 44 food insecure household, right? And that is based on the numbers from 2011. So this is the real gross domestic product per capita in Gaza and West Bank, right? And you can see here, if you compare from 1994 to 2014, so this is in Gaza, right? And this is West Bank, right? So this is the real gross domestic, which is very clear that in West Bank, it's a bit better comparing to Gaza, because Gaza been under siege for the last 16 years, and there are limitations on the movement, limitations on the raw material, and being attacked a few times, the destruction of the small industries, the destruction of houses. So the current capacity of electricity in terms of the energy, like about 242 megawatt, and the peak electricity 350. The peak electricity in 2020 is 550 megawatts. So we are getting less than what is less than half of what we need in terms of electricity. And again, electricity is important for the people, for the hospitals, for the industries, for the universities. That again, this is a real challenge for the Palestinian. So this is supply and demand for electricity, right? You can see that this is the demand, right? This is the demand, and this is the supply, which is fluctuation. So the gap is too high, right? So in terms of what the future holds for Gaza, right? This is the economy, GDP, the GDP per capita, 1,273, population more than 2 million, population density more than 5,000. The water aquifer may become unusable, and this is already unusable in 2020. 260 million cubic meter in 2020, an increase about 60% from today. This is from a previous statistics. Schools, we need more than 250 additional schools. In terms of health, we need more than 800 additional beds. And in terms of health personnel, we need over 1,000 additional doctors and 2,000 nurses, right? So this is in terms of numbers. on both the unemployment, food insecurity, education, the movements of people, the movements of material, right? In terms of, if we want to talk about the prospects of sustainability or sustainable development, so there is a general consensus that sustainable development in Palestine should be linked to available institutional framework, enabling development planning and rule of law. Amid the recent political and economic crisis, which include increased unemployment, humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and also some financing issues and gaps in the Palestinian Authority, right? That put a lot of stress, and the Palestinian Authority struggle to remove barriers for private sectors. And this is as reported by the World Bank, the Israeli constraints on movements, access, and trade continue to be the main impediment for the economic growth in the Palestinian territories. And in terms of the entrepreneurship is also at high risk activities in Palestine. And according to reports by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, the country has one of the lowest early stage entrepreneurial activity rates in the region. So that is very clear that these challenges are mainly from the Israeli occupation. Palestine also suffers from a huge gender gap despite possessing a large pool of better educated entrepreneurs compared with other countries. Almost 20% of population in the process of trying to start a new business are seeking employment, and highlighting how sustainable growth and job creation. It's difficult to establish the percentage of Palestinian early stage entrepreneurs who are looking at green value chain to develop their ventures. There is a large untapped potential to move specific value chain towards green development. The Palestinian Authority identified 3 main sectors which can develop added value by shifting to more circular, sustainable economic model, right, which is agro-food, tourism, and construction, where the implementation of the National Action Plan would require $280 million USD to update up-to-date, largely unfunded, and that is, again, challenges, right? The unsustainable water usage, the soil, these are some of the challenges. Unsustainable water usage, soil degradation, desertification, energy infrastructure degradation, unsustainable farming practice, lack of waste treatment and disposal infrastructure. So these environmental challenges have been turned into business opportunity by a few green entrepreneurs who have received limited support from the established business support organizations. A sustainable growth path driven by the private sector would require a reduction of external and internal constraints and the identification of leveraging the strategies enabling the business ecosystem, including financial players and investors. So there is a need for a systematic approach, which have been used by breaking the program's reference system and scaling up the vision for Palestine to support transition to a greener, more circular and fair economy by efficiently leveraging the social and networking capital entrepreneurship. Operation management policy and mindset areas have been explored, analyzing the existing causal nexus with higher potential to leverage a change in the whole reference system and gaining traction towards a green circular economy in the country. There are some success stories in the Palestinian scenario. So we're talking about one of the Palestinian entrepreneurs, his name is Bashar al-Masri. He is the man behind the development of the new city of Rawabi, the largest ever Palestinian private sector investment. The vast majority of Palestinian companies are small in size and therefore driven by small entrepreneurs. Out of nearly 145,000 economic establishments operating in Palestine, 131 were private sector companies. Almost 90% employed less than 5 workers, and nearly 8% had 5 to 9 employees. And in terms of the division only 137 Palestinian establishments employed more than 100 workers, 100 in West Bank and 37 in Gaza. So small and micro enterprise employed nearly 763% people, almost 90% of the employed. 273% were entrepreneurs themselves, and 489,000 were their employees. In Palestine, the panorama and prospect are equally promising. A vibrant digital entrepreneurs scene is emerging, and different initiatives have been put in place. Some such as e-zone or co-working space for digital entrepreneurs are helping to foster a sense of community. Others provide funding and mentorship to technology startups through accelerators and incubator style program. So to improve the business environment, they focus public sector efforts to improve the business environment, which signal to existing and potential entrepreneurs that the government regards them as a central partner for growth and job creation, and that the need for them to realize their full potential is in line with the broader national development strategy. Also, the increased competition, clearer and simpler regulation, and greater access to finance and capital by entrepreneurs are also needed to help build entrepreneurship market. Push the profitability appears to be at the core of potential for future development. So this is looking forward. While challenges remain, opportunity are equally large for structure change. The Palestinian entrepreneurs revolution will require time to take off at large scale. These include increased access to capital by young businesses as a way of creating an adequate private sector, the introduction of tax holidays for innovation-driven startups, and a comprehensive revision of the education system to support the development of entrepreneurs' skills and gradual instillment and the entrepreneur and risk-taking spirit among the youth, right? So maybe here just the last part of the presentation, just to share some of these photos about the relationship between Palestine and Indonesia. So this is the Indonesian hospital, Rumah Sakit Indonesia in North Gaza, which is just 500 meters from my house, and it is helping a lot of people in Gaza, especially in North Gaza. We are talking about more than 300,000 people in the area, and it is very good located, which serve the whole people in North Gaza, and it is totally supported by the Indonesian people and was established the last few years. So there are a lot of efforts from the Indonesian NGOs to help the Palestinian, and this is part of the aid which flow in Gaza. And this is also some of the photos for the support being delivered to Palestinian, to the people in Gaza previously. And this is also some of the donation, and that is in some medical in clinics, and also in schools, and also in the communities. And again, these are also some of the support so I think that's all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much.
I'll be happy to answer if there is any question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wissam Al-Manhun, for this interesting data. You have described all the data we have need for information of the Palestine. At least maybe I summarize some point that our brother Palestinian people, they are facing a difficult situation in Palestine according to huge number of unemployment. The most of people are the youth age who they need education, they need more of resources, water, and so on, and the people need more facilities on health and more facilities for production of increasing economic. We have must discuss it in this point. Okay, we have still a lot of time to Q&A with our distinguished guest, Dr. Wissam Al-Madhun. Please raise your hand and please present your question and open your microphone and unmute your microphone. Please, all the participants. Dr. Wissam, maybe we can begin from the written question here. We can read on our slide here. Dr. Wissam, according to CNN, reported that shekels, that Israeli currency, flooded market and business in Palestine. In fact, the two countries have different financial system. Local expert one, it called a cripple, that Palestinian economic system. Dr. Wissam, can you tell more about it? Actually, we're surprised that Palestine has central bank also. It is the first question, Dr. Wissam.
Yep. Okay, so I think regarding the financial issues, the main challenge that we need to deal with the Israeli financial system, and it is all controlled by the Israeli, right?
Okay.
So the flow of funding, the flow of cash, and the main currency for trade is an Israeli currency. So they control the financial system, right? And the only way for you to buy through them, you need to buy the goods through the Israeli, because we don't have airport, we don't have a seaport, we don't have any means to whatever implication on the finance system in Israel, that will definitely affect the Palestinian system. And that is definitely one of the challenge. And I think, in many cases, the people face here in Gaza, in Palestine, the issue of getting cash. Or the Jordanian dinar or the American USD, because in Gaza, there is no Palestine, in Palestine, there is no currency. So we have to deal with all these international currencies. Okay. So if you have to deal with the Israeli, you need to use shekel. In the market, to buy food, you need to use shekel. If you want to buy a car, you buy it with USD. If you want to buy an apartment, you need to use USD. If you want to buy a land, we are using the Jordanian dinar. So people will save like two different, at least 3 different currencies, even some of the people using euro as well. So this is putting a lot of stress on the Palestinian financial system. So yeah, the Palestinians, they have their own system, but it is affected by the Israeli. They decide what you need to do, right? And what you can do in terms of finance, in terms of banking system. So that is, again, putting a lot of pressure on the Palestinian financial system.
Okay, so it is a very difficult situation, Dr. Wissam, as you told us before, that when you want to go some place, may Israel give you permission, but may they arrest you in checkpoint. So a second question.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very difficult situation.
Maybe just to add here, sometimes even they give a permission for somebody like to go for treatment. Okay. Because in Gaza there is no treatment for cancer cases. Okay. So you get the permission, you go to the checkpoint, they will interview you, and they will offer they will say either you work with our security forces, like to report to them, or you are not allowed to go for medical treatment. Okay. So it's like a bad for medical treatments.
Yeah, that's very difficult situation. Thank you, Mr. Wissam. Second question right in here. Dr. Wissam, thank you for your explanation. I would like to know, does the Palestinian government also think about the sustainable development goal in its policies while the situation in there often get attacked?
Yeah, actually, in terms of planning, they plan, they have policies, but it's usually when you want to implement, that is the challenge, because again, it is linked. It's not only linked to your capacity and your policies and your planning. Yeah, it is all linked with the Israeli policies and Israeli actions, right?
Yeah.
So that is putting a lot of pressure, and also to implement sustainability to be kind of in line with the SDGs. You need to put some funding. You need to, motivate and also give some incentives for the businesses to be more green and more sustainable, and also to implement some sustainability initiatives. You need funding, which is lacking, and that is again one of the issues, that you don't have enough fund for that, because there is no economic activities which can finance all these activities. Plus that the Israelis always, even the tax system is very strange over here. Like, we get our goods through the Israeli, they will take the taxes, and then they will pay back to the Palestinian Authority. If there is any political challenge, there is political dispute, they will just deduct of the Palestinian taxes and they transfer to their account. So even your money, the money of the people, they pay for taxes, and then anytime they can just hijack that amount based on they can create any reason, which again putting the difficulty on the Palestinian Authority.
I see. Okay, please, participant, if you have any question to our distinguished guest, please raise your hand and present your question exactly on your microphone.
Mungkin ada yang mau bertanya, bisa disampaikan di sini, bisa lewat lisan langsung. You may ask to our guest, to Dr. Wissam, by orally or written in the chat forum. Bisa, silakan. Bisa terjemahkan kalau tidak paham ke Inggrisnya.
It's very interesting data displayed by our distinguished guest. A lot of question maybe in our participant mind, and plus we have still
belum di mute, belum di unmute.
I meant that if someone give his question, please raise in the hand and please ask your question. Silakan. Maybe our moderator, our sister Husnul Khatimah, if you have any question, please.
For me, I think it's clear enough seeing the data.
Okay, thank you. Silakan Bapak Ibu jika ada pertanyaan.
Yang ingin bertanya.
Please Bapak Dr. Sugianto. Please.
Okay. Thank you for the chance given to me. My question is, besides the fact of the situation happened in Palestina, I mean the war, what is the most fundamental problem faced in order to realize the sustainable economic development, and what are the solutions?
Dr. Sugiarto, and please Dr. Wissam, the question from our brother Dr. Sugianto. The real problem faced that Palestinian side according to how to develop socio-economic and obstacle that in the Palestinian people.
I think the most troubling issue is the Israeli occupation, right? Because as you've seen in the figures and also the charts, it is affecting every aspect, like movements, flowing of material, funding issues. So the solution is there. It's to end the Israeli occupation and to let the Palestinians to live safely and happily in Palestine, and that will definitely encourage and motivate the sustainability. Because yeah, there are some parts of challenges which is like on education and awareness, but that is being done all the time.
Yeah.
But when you reach to the real core issues, you will face a lot of challenges to do them, because it is beyond your control. When the issue of the occupation, the issue of funding, it's beyond your control. So that is the main reason, the main cause. It's the Israeli occupation, and it has to end.
Yeah, I think that's the real problem is the occupation. We are now like in 21st century, but there is still occupation in our in our brother. Please, if there any more question, silakan Bapak Ibu peserta, please.
Sepertinya ada ini Bapak, ada satu pertanyaan. There is one question.
Okay, yeah. It is number.
In condition of frequent attacks by Israel, is there any still Palestinian who become muzaki?
Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, Dr. Wissam, it is the third question written here. In condition of frequent attack by Israel, is there any still Palestinian who become muzaki? How the condition of zakah institution, Dr. Wissam?
Yeah, this is as we are know, this is one of the pillars of Islam, right? So whoever have the when the amount of money or goods reach to the limit of the zakah, people are paying the zakah. So it is mostly people are helping each other. So it does not go through an institution.
Okay.
It is most because there is a lot of people need help. Like if you just distribute to your relatives, it will be just enough to cover their needs, because we are talking about 70% of the population relying on aids. So the people who deserve the zakat is too large. So mainly people will distribute it during Ramadan, the zakat, to their neighbors, their relatives in their communities. Yeah. Those who have the amount, like the amount of money which reach the level of zakah, like so people are contributing. People are paying the zakat, but it is being done individually and at the level of the community and the families.
Okay, if it collected and funded by organization, maybe it is being a ban of Israeli government in zakah.
Yeah, in some, yes, in some places, yes. If the Israeli physically there, they can just raid off the institution or hijack the amount of money. Or if you bank in the money, they can freeze the amount.
Oh, so it is better to being distribute individually to the mustahik.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. It is very difficult situation we can find in our brother in Palestine. So participant, we still have maybe 10 minutes until 15 minutes from now. If you have any more question, please raise your hand or write on your wall. Another question maybe? We have talked about the huge number of problems that face in Palestinian. We talk about the main problem of sustainable development in Palestine, and we have talked more in any point here. If you have any more question, please write. Please tell us and present to our distinguished guests. Any more question? participant?
I think here, I'm sorry, I just want to invite you to be part of the Global Sustainability Ambassadors.
Okay,
which is,
yeah.
I posted the group here. So this is a group,
yeah.
Global group of ambassadors in 120 countries, and we are having more than 10,000 members of that community. Currently, we are conducting training jointly with UNESCO in China. And a lot of people joining that, and we will have a collaboration with one sustainability initiative in the US, and this might open opportunity for funding for sustainability initiatives in Indonesia. So I invite you all to be part of this, and we'll continue to update on the activities. And maybe also I'll post my LinkedIn here in the chat so that we can be connected, and we can think on more collaboration between the Palestinian and the Indonesian universities. And I think we have a lot of potential. I've been in Indonesia a few times. I give talks in Unhas, in ITB, ITB and Iyaaaa. And so I'm really interested to collaborate with Indonesian
thank you very
colleagues.
much.
And I think there's a lot of potential to be explored, because Indonesia is a great country. Is unique because the Indonesian, they always support the Palestinian.
Inshallah.
And in terms of numbers, the Indonesian people are huge. So your support is great for Palestinian, and definitely what we can do, this is our academic task. So we can develop the collaboration between us in terms of academic, and we can create opportunities and hope for the young people, both in Indonesia and in Palestine. So my pleasure to connect with you, and also to plan for more future activities for collaboration, inshallah.
Inshallah. In what activities actually, Mr. Dr. Wissam, in impact youth sustainability, you have more than 10,000 and 1,500 members. In what activities this?
Actually, this is a program I started last year, and it is basically a knowledge platform. It is for building capacity of people on sustainability, and also sharing knowledge, sharing experiences, build networks. And we have teams in many countries, including in Indonesia as well. And we are interested to grow that in Indonesia because there is a lot of potential. And now we start to link with international organizations, because some organizations, they want to do projects, but there is no teams, there is no people on the ground. So we create that network, we create that knowledge platform. And then now we can connect to organizations to facilitate their work. And the very minimal efforts that we can do is to share knowledge between people, share experience. And that is one of the issues in sustainability. People need to understand about sustainability so that they can start practicing sustainability.
I think what you say in the last of slide, when our Indonesian people who donate and success to build sustainability development among Palestinian people. Alhamdulillah, we try to get more, of course, more donation, more relationship between our people, between Indonesia and Palestine. Dr. Wissam, he is in postgraduate level, and I think he completed the master degree in our university, and now he is living in Jakarta. He was studied in our university. Okay, all participants, if you have any more questions before we end our agenda. It is very nice topic, very interesting topic we discussed with our distinguished guest, Mr. Wissam Al-Madhun. If there any question, Bu Husnul, apa ada pertanyaan yang tertulis?
Ini masih sepertinya ada satu Bapak, baru saya baca.
Oh, yang bahasa Indonesia.
Sebentar ini. Sebentar ini Palestina. Bagaimana pemerintahan menghadapi masalah perekonomian ketika selalu diserang oleh Israel?
Ya, Dr. Wissam, more question that when Israel always attack to Palestinian people, they destroy every infrastructure in Palestine. How can Palestinians build or recover their economic?
Yeah, you know, when we have these challenges, so people, it will take time for people to recover, because the recover means to reconstruct. Reconstruct, if you have no material, then the reconstruct will be very slow. Yeah. And to recover, you need funding. If you don't have funding, if your industry being destroyed, then you need assistance, you need some help, right? So if that can't reach to the industries, means that these can go bankrupt because they can't recover, they can't reconstruct, right? But you know, the losing hope and giving up, it's not an option for the Palestinians. Yeah. They always sustain, they always go steadfast and continue the struggle with whatever scenario they have, and that is maybe one of the success point in the Palestinian scenario.
They cannot hope, they cannot lose their hope. Of course, they must struggle in every single time. So maybe our last question, Dr. Wissam.
One more question.
According to the lack of electricity and energy power, and how to you build your capacity of energy power and public health. You provide public health to the people.
Yeah, you know, the energy issue, the electricity. So in most of the hospitals, previously they use generators, but definitely you need fuel for generator. That now, recently, the international organization go like they provide solar energy, solar as a
solar energy
provide will provide the energy and reduce the reduce the risk and reduce the cost of operating when you rely on generators. So I think most of the hospitals and the schools now the trend is going towards solar energy, and again this is part of the sustainability.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wissam. Bu Husnul, Dr. Harunisa, if there any more time, or we must end this discussion?
Yes, we have Dr. Setiawan.
Yeah.
We have more time. We can more.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Harunisa. Please, our participant, if you have any more question.
Ini ada satu. Di kolom chat. Mohon maaf, mungkin penjelasan dari Dr. Wissam bisa diterjemahkan dan dijelaskan karena kami kurang memahami. Terima kasih.
Bu Husnul ini yang pintar menerjemahkan.
Tidak demikian juga, Pak. Jadi begini, nun sewu ya, permisi.
Silakan ya.
Baik, jadi berdasarkan keterangan dari Dr. Wissam, ini saya in a glance, sorry, for summary saja, untuk sekilas saja. Jadi yang jelas segala sendi pergerakan dari rakyat Palestina itu di bawah kontrol dari Israel. Ya, dari data yang sudah kita dapati, jadi masih the Palestinian itu benar-benar under pressure ya, masih di tangannya Israel bergerak ekonomi modal tidak ada, tidak banyak Dan intinya Palestina ini masih membutuhkan bantuan, bukan hanya untuk mendapatkan pendidikan yang lebih atau lebih, tapi juga karena they need to have system, memperbaiki banyak hal termasuk dalam bidang kesehatan, kemudian bagaimana sosial ekonomi mereka juga bisa lebih stabil, lebih berkelanjutan ya. Jadi juga butuh dana masih. Makanya Dr. Wesa mengatakan mengundang kita semua untuk bisa berpartisipasi dalam tadi asosiasi sustainability, ambassador of sustainability untuk Palestina.
Youth sustainability.
Iya.
Terima kasih Bu Husnul. Bu Husnul transfer your explanation to our some participant, and it is some important question from our participant Dr. Sugianto. Dr. Wisam, would you to give your positive word in order to motivate us to be able to help or donate for Palestinian people?
As I shown in the presentation, that the support from the Indonesian people through the hospital and the NGOs, it's been continuous, and this is crucial for the Palestinian to continue their struggle. I think one of the issues for the Indonesian people to help the Palestinians is the best through education, right? And providing the people the opportunity to join their universities, to continue their education, because that can help their families and also can develop the capacity of the Palestinian. I think, so the Palestinian always looking forward for the Indonesian people to get their support and not only like financially, it's always like the morally and the dua from the Indonesian people who always giving the support, the moral support to the Palestinian to continue the struggle.
Okay, Dr. Wisam, all participants, the most of all you is in university sector, so you can give to some Palestinian student any scholarship and to study in your universities, as we have done. We have give one student of Palestine in master degree. He was in Malaysia and now he was in University of Darussalam Gontor, and he has completed his master degree, and now he live in Jakarta. Maybe he wait for some time to go home to Palestine. So if you have any chance to give the Palestinian student any scholarship, it will be very good and very benefit the Palestinian. Okay, if there are any more question, Bu Husnul, ada yang lain barangkali?
Sorry, actually there is one question that has not been answered, or maybe it was not in a good attention. When Israel attack Palestinian, it will have a big impact in Palestinian economic system. How is the role of Palestinian government to face this problem? Ini pertanyaan dari Mbak Cindy ini tadi.
Oh yeah, according to Palestinian government, Dr. Wisam, this question
bagaimana?
is ask how is Palestinian government face the economic situation after being attacked from Israel?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned just now, the challenges for the government, it's great because the Israeli limit the movements for people and for the government as well, putting stress on the business sector, on the taxes, right? So the government willing to develop, but they have lack of even our money. The tax which collected by the Israeli is being hijacked and being cut by the Israeli as punishment for any political move. So the challenge, it's not only on the people, it's on the people and the government as well. And they are trying their best to do whatever they can. But still, even in some of the cases, they can't even pay the salaries for the employees. So yeah, I mean, the challenge is great for people and for the government as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wisam.
Jadi,
ya, silakan,
mohon maaf
Bu
Pak Setiawan. Jadi kira-kira yang disampaikan oleh Bapak Wisam ini baru saja bahwa pemerintah Palestina sebetulnya sudah berusaha maksimal, tetapi dikarenakan masih di dalam di under pressure oleh Israel, intervensi Israel yang begitu besar sampai pajak dan sebagainya, itu mereka sangat berperan sehingga ya tidak bisa berbuat banyak. Baik, terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Wisam Al-Manhun and all participants. If there is not any question anymore, finally we would like to thank our distinguished guest, Dr. Wisam Al-Manhun. نتقدم بالشكر الجزيل إلى أستاذنا أستاذ دكتور وسام المنهون عميد كلية الهندسة جامعة غزة بفلسطين. We would like to thank our distinguished guest, Prof. Dr. Wisam Al-Manhun, the Dean of Faculty of Engineering, Gaza University. Exactly, Dr. Wisam has described to us the fact and the real condition in Palestine, and that it is very difficult situation. Maybe we can conclude the lack of the huge number of 66% of people are refugees, and the less of water resources, the less of energy, electricity, and the huge number of unemployment, and the youth people need some facilities, education facilities, health facilities, and another. And finally, Dr. Wisam highlight that our relation between Palestine and Indonesia is being very good, and Indonesian always support. Indonesian people and government always support the Palestinian struggle in the site, and Dr. Wisam thank to all of us that our people and our government always support Palestine in every single moment that they have in Palestine, and we must continue our supporting to the Palestinian people, of course. Okay, Dr. Wisam, on behalf of the chief of Indonesian Association of Islamic Economics, Ritonga, he apologized. He can attend your program today because he exam, I say PSD student, I mean, this afternoon, and finally we appreciate your presentation and your sharing of knowledge, Dr. Wisam, and please we would like to keep in touch with you, and we would like, of course, after coronavirus, we would like to invite you in our university, in our region East Java, inshallah. And once again, thank you very much, and may we meet you in some occasion in the next time, inshallah. نتقدم بالشكر الجزيل إلى أستاذنا أستاذ دكتور وسام المنهون عميد كلية الهندسة جامعة غزة بفلسطين. كما نشكر, and we always also thank Dr. Husnul Khatimah for being this moderator, and I give a change more time once again to Husnul Khatimah. Thank you, Dr. Wisam.
Okay, thank you very much to Bapak Setiawan. Thank you so much to Dr. Wisam for every data and also information for telling us the real condition, the current condition in Palestine. So I feel so touched, honestly. Baiklah, hadirin audiens semuanya, partisipan yang hadir di sini. Jadi tadi sudah disampaikan oleh Bapak Dr. Wesam dari Palestina bahwa memang kondisi di sana masih banyak yang belum kondusif baik secara sosial, ekonomi, kesehatan, pendidikan, banyak sekali pengangguran. Jadi Palestina intinya masih membutuhkan uluran tangan kerjasama di berbagai sektor dalam hal ini ya. Jadi itu saja yang bisa saya simpulkan dari talkshow kita pada sore hari ini. Sekali lagi terima kasih atas kehadirannya and finally we come to the end of our agenda today. So let us close the talk show by reciting Hamdalah. Alhamdulillah. Semoga acara talk show ini membawa manfaat bagi kita semua dan apabila nanti ada dana yang bisa disisihkan untuk Palestina mungkin bisa melalui atau melewati rizki di sini ya. So thank you very much again, and I hope I will learn something or even many things from this occasion. And see you on the next occasion.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Syukran Bu Islam,
Dr. Setiawan.
Wait, we still haven't make take a photo.
Okay,
photo session. I forget. Sorry.
Please open your camera.
Please open. Everyone, please open the camera, please. Silakan dibuka kameranya semuanya. Kita ada sesi foto bersama di sini.
Okay, please begin, Bu Husnul.
Okay.
Bu Nisa, ya.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wisam. Narakum ala khair. Dr. Wisam.
Allah.
Nashkurukum. Nashkurukum. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Wisam.
Salam.
Narakum ala khair, insyaallah.
See you.
Thank you, Dr. Wisam. Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Dr. Wesam, you are the host and you can help me to end the meeting.
Okay, terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Wesam.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih.